Hey guys, welcome to Have a Drink of Paint. We are doing an eagle today. The eagle is for my review of one of my favorite shows, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. This is going to be a two-part video. Probably a four-part video. First half is going to be me talking about the show and getting some color laid, some line work down. The second half is going to be me airbrushing, which I haven't been able to showcase just yet. And then third part will be me doing another painting, and I'll probably airbrush that. So we're going to end up with like a four-part mini-series here. But I chose the eagle for the Birds of War episode. They dress up like eagles to do wrestling, WWF style. It's a great episode. But what we're going to start with is laying a little bit of color in the background. So if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't seen the show, you should really go see the show. It is a fantastic satire look at a lot of different personalities. And one of my favorites is probably Dennis. But the very first episode is called The Gang Gets Racist. And in the first few seconds, yes, they are kind of racist. But the episode's mainly about a friend of one of theirs comes in and starts getting them a bunch of business, and they end up turning into a gay bar, which Dennis, being the narcissist he is, enjoys at first.
Boys are out tonight, huh?
But it doesn't later, and it's hilarious when you watch it. I'm not going to spoil everything for you. That's the other thing, is I'm not going to be able to go into a whole lot of detail on every episode, because it just would take up way too much time. So I'm just kind of going to give you some highlights and possibly some reasons to watch. So we'll kind of leave the first episode there. And from the beginning, they tackle issues such as racism, homophobic stuff, underage stuff. They tick a lot of bells in this one, and it's just the way they do it. If you're a fan of satire, it's amazing. So in the first season, you got a few good episodes. One of them is Gun Fever. They end up getting broken into, and their safe is robbed by, is it Mike or Nick? Michael Rosenbaum, which is the guy that played Lex Luthor in the Smallville series. If you saw any of that, you pretty much know who he is. very funny actor. I believe he's got a podcast nowadays. But they end up buying a gun, and when Charlie gets it and threatens his landlord in a nonchalant type of way. It's one of the best scenes ever. I love it. And after that, I guess first off, let me introduce you to kind of the characters. So, throughout the seasons, you have Mac, who is mostly religious most of the time when it suits his needs, completely not when it doesn't. And he's obsessed with being the bodyguard and being the one that keeps everything safe in the bar. He sees himself as Patrick Swayze in Roadhouse. But after a while, his character develops quite a bit. And Rob McElhenney, which is one of the writers of the show, he was also in the Wrexham soccer movie with Ryan Reynolds buying the soccer team. He did that not too long ago. And in real life, he's married to the actress that plays Dee. Dee's character is very much obsessed with being famous. She wants to be a star actress. And throughout the show, she's always coming up with different characters that she can dive into. And in real life, she ended up doing a TV show called The Mick, which was very much similar to one of her characters on the show. And yeah, that's that. As far as them two go. So then you also have Charlie. And Charlie, one of his main things is he's obsessed with a coffee waitress from a coffee shop. Or a waitress from a coffee shop. And she wants absolutely nothing to do with him. So he stalks her, and that's kind of his character for a lot of the movie. But he's very much kind of the... He starts out not so dumb, but as you progress further into the series, it seems like he gets kind of dumber and dumber. But I think that's for reasons. But he's very much the childlike one of the group. His main job in the bar is to be the rat killer. So it becomes after a while that he goes down in the basement and bashes him with a baseball bat. He's a rat basher, which comes into play a few times throughout the series, but he also is illiterate. He eats paint. There's a lot of issues my poor boy has. And another thing about Dee is they always call her a bird because she's tall and skinny, I assume. She doesn't look like a bird per se. but she is tall and skinny. So I assume that's where it comes from. But they always give her shit and call her a bird, and she hates it, but can't get away from it. And comes to expect it after a while. And then there's Frank, which is Danny DeVito. He's played by Danny DeVito. He's Dennis and Dee's dad, which he turns out not to be, but possibly Charlie's throughout the series. And it's a very good episode where they're trying to get his blood for a DNA test and they take way too much, and yeah, it's great. But Danny DeVito's character is more like there for being gross, being a crappy dad. Like on Christmas, he buys the presents that Dennis and Dee wants, but he keeps them for himself to teach them some sort of lesson.
Frank, what the hell are you doing, man?
That's my character. I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage. And then I pick up the trash can and I bash the guy on the head.
Oh, that's gonna be...
It's quite funny. He's also rich, so, and him and his wife split up. He comes to live with Charlie, and him and Charlie get along famously, eat cat food and do all kinds of weird dumpster diving, hanging out under bridges, just odd stuff. So he's very much there just for kind of a weird factor. And then we got my favorite character, Dennis. Dennis is very much a narcissistic personality. He would be the one out of the group you wouldn't want to wake up in the middle of the night and see standing over your bed. He's very creepy at times, very psychotic at times, and just, yeah, he's the best.
I have contained my rage for as long as possible, but I shall unleash my fury upon you like the crashing of 1,000 waves! Begone, vile man! Begone from me!
Kind of let that dry a little bit. But yeah, throughout the series, Dennis is very narcissistic. You get to see that more and more prominent as the seasons go on. He's very much into the younger girls, which makes him even creepier. Yeah, he's very much got quite the personality. And the actors that play Charlie and Dennis help do writing on the show as well. So they're all kind of in it together. Gotta be in the twin. But that's pretty much the majority of the characters. Another one is Cricket. Cricket's also one of my favorites. He went to high school with him. When he comes back into contact with him as an adult, he's a full-fledged priest. And he had a crush on Dee in high school. She made him eat a turd for a kiss and then didn't even kiss him. So she was very mean to this kid. And by the time they're done with him, he's a homeless crackhead, meth head, prostitute. And it's just a great character to have as a background in your show. And the actor that plays him is fantastic in the movie. For the most part, that's most of the characters. You get an episode or two here and there with famous people, guest stars, and the such. And those are always great. So, in the first season, one of my favorite episodes is Charlie Gets Molested. And this is when you get introduced to the McPoyles. And McPoyles are something else, I'll tell you what. Love the guys that play them. I'm not naming all the actors and going through all that. You guys can check that out if you want to research it. But the McPoyles are fantastic. And basically they're accusing their high school gym teacher of molesting them when they were in school. And Mac reads it out of a newspaper and Charlie kind of freaks out, so they all think that Charlie's been molested because he was also in this guy's class.
This isn't over until I say it's over!
So Dee and Dennis took psychology in school, so they're trying to figure out how to get him to open up and share his trauma. And turns out that he was getting drunk with the McPoyles at a bar and came up with this idea, and the McPoyles acted on it. So now Charlie feels responsible for it. And between Dennis and Dee, they end up holding an intervention with Charlie's mom, uncle, which we also find out is pretty handsy with the young boys. And they end up having an intervention trying to get Charlie to speak up, and he ends up going to the police and ratting out the McPoyles. It's a great episode. So in season 2 is kind of when they introduce Frank. Frank comes in, buys up the bar. So now they all kind of work for him. Dee and Dennis aren't digging that, so they end up quitting because they don't want to work for their crappy dad. And so at first they end up going on unemployment. And after the unemployment wears out, which while they're on unemployment, there's a great scene where they're sitting on the stoop of their apartment building listening to Biz Markie at 11 o'clock in the morning on a boombox, drunk as shit. It's just It's a fantastic episode. Yeah, it's good. They're doing the whole, they're singing along and like Dee by the Jesus chain, and Dennis got a brand new watch, and Mac is pissed because they're having to work for Frank while they're sucking up unemployment. So they kind of have an altercation, and Mac tells them about how the unemployment's going to run out eventually, and they're like, well, we're just going to go on welfare. So then they try to go on welfare. Turns out they can't get on welfare unless they're drug addict or mentally unstable.
Hi, I'm a recovering crackhead. This is my retarded sister that I take care of. I'd like some welfare, please.
They can't get the medical paperwork to be mentally unstable, but they can get the crack to put in their bloodstream to show that they're an addict. So that's kind of what they do. Things go wrong. They end up addicted to crack. It's great. Great episodes.
What's your plan, huh? 2 miles an hour. There you go. Oh, darn it. Use your signal, you cow!
But by the end of it, they all end up back at the bar. And there's a great scene where they're like, well, Frank brings him back, lets him work, and he's like, but you're going to answer to Mac and Charlie. And they're like, well, why? And he's like, because you're crackheads. And they are, and it's great. It's funny. I love that episode, and quite a few more. This is one of those series I probably watched through and through at least 4 or 5 times, just because there's nothing else to watch, so I might as well watch something I like. This is one of those things. There's about 4 shows I could just watch over and over again and not have a problem with it, and this is one of them. And we will eventually cover the other ones, but we're not there yet. This is the first TV show I did, or I'm doing. And as long as nothing goes wrong with my airbrush later, it'll be the first one I'm doing the airbrush to as well. But the main thing this one's from is, let's see, what episode is that?
Now,
Oh, Sandra, dumb bitch.
Season 5, episode 7. So, Dee is dating a soldier, and it gives the guys the idea that they want to do something for the soldiers, and they're watching wrestling at the time, so of course they decide to put on a wrestling show and call it For the Troops type of thing. And Dee's boyfriend gets off the bus when she comes to meet him for the first time, because she's been basically dating him online. And when he gets off the bus, he's in a wheelchair, so she freaks out. And she ends up having one of her friends from her acting class meet him and tell him that she's her. And turns out he can walk. They end up getting together. That storyline's okay, but the wrestling storyline is fantastic. So they decide they're going to be birds of war. When they were kids, they were the Pigeon Boys, but now they're birds of war. So they don these eagle costumes and come out and fight Cricket, which is dressed like a Taliban member, and he's the Tally Bum because he's homeless. Like I said, there's not much they're afraid to touch on as far as subject matter goes in the show. It's quite comical. Frank ends up winning the match as the Trash Man. And that's pretty much that. One of my other favorite episodes is The Night Man Cometh. And in that one, Charlie writes a song. They decide to put on a play. Dennis is dressed in, it's just, that's one of those episodes you need to watch. So I'm just going to leave that one alone. Night Man Cometh, best episode of the early part of the show for sure. So I think I'm going to stop there. I'm going to let this dry. Went through most of the seasons. I mean, at one point, Dennis gets married and divorced. Jason Sudeikis is an episode as one of their original members of the gang, which they refer to themselves as. Roddy Piper is in the wrestling episode. He's a character called the Maniac. It's also fantastic. Also in season 7, they do the Charlie McDennis, which is a combination of all their names. It's a game they came up with, which is convoluted to say the least. There is way too many rules, a lot of drinking, and a lot of yelling and screaming. So
Trivia!
Trivia, baby!
that one was a good episode. They ended up having 2 of those. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the main things I wanted to point out in the first half of the show.
Now you say another word, and I swear to God, I will dice you into a million little pieces and put those pieces in a box, a glass box that I will display on my mantle.
After this, I'm going to airbrush this, but the air compressor is so loud, I'm not going to be able to talk while I do it, so I'll probably just try and find some royalty-free, non-annoying music. Cross my fingers. And I'll play that while I airbrush. I will be doing a giveaway for this one as well. I'll put the details in the comments, but I mean, for the most part, it's like, subscribe, share. You get a comment at the bottom. You gotta make sure to leave the comment done, which means you've done all the above. You've subscribed, you liked, all that stuff. And I'll make sure you get this. But other than that,